being with us at the Empowered Women Web Show. I'm really, really excited to have you on the show today. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm your biggest fan, and yes, I can't wait to get started.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure. So Amy, the first thing I wanted to have a chat with you about is limiting beliefs, actually. I think so many small business owners, particularly women, struggle with those limiting beliefs that really hold them back from achieving the kind of things that they want to achieve in business and in life. And I know that you actually spent about 6.5 years with probably the world's most famous peak performance coach, Tony Robbins. And I actually read somewhere that you struggle a little bit with your confidence when you branched out on your own. And I just wanted to find out from you what was the kind of one experience or lesson that you learned during those years that you took away that you can actually share with our audience about how you actually overcame those kind of limiting beliefs, the lack of confidence and that kind of thing?
That's such a great question. I really definitely did struggle with those limiting beliefs. And the crazy thing is, working with Tony Robbins for so long, I knew what they were. I knew really how to get over them and just kind of push them aside, recognize them and push them aside. But still, it's just not that easy. So one of the things I always tell people that are just starting out, or if they're hearing those self-doubt, words in their head, is to give yourself an opportunity for a little bit of success. So those little goals that you know they're achievable start to add up. So in my first year, I doubted everything. I was nervous about everything, and I was really nervous to put myself out there. And so what I did is I started working with some clients, got a few wins, and really stopped and took a moment to realize, wait a second, that actually worked really well. Or I would, make a point to raise a certain amount of money in revenue for over a 2-month period. And when I hit it, I had to celebrate those small wins. So recognizing the small wins, setting your expectations to a point that's realistic and not so big that they're just unattainable. So being realistic with yourself, setting really good expectations for yourself, and also celebrating those small wins, those were some of the ways that I was able to quiet those limiting beliefs and just move through them. But I'll say one more thing about that. I also had a really good support system. And I know that sometimes that's not easy to come by if you don't have a great spouse that's supporting you in this new endeavor or a family member. But find somebody that does support you and really foster a relationship there, because having those people in your lives that say, it's all right, get back on the saddle, you can do it, that's really big as well.
Those are fantastic tips, Amy, absolutely fantastic. And I agree with all of those. I think a support network is so important. So since then, I know you've been super successful in your business over the last couple of years. It's grown exponentially and you've had some great wins. Now, having been through a couple of your coaching programs, I know that you actually focus on what you call key business drivers. I actually loved that about the coaching programs that I did with you. And around those key business drivers, and also that fantastic to-do list that you shared with your students. I actually use that in my business every day now. It's amazing how helpful it is. I absolutely love it. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you actually identify those key business drivers within your business, and then I know you remain really super focused on that, using that to-do list to then identify your monthly, weekly and daily actions that are actually going to move you forward towards your goals. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. So one of the things that I knew I had to get under control right away in my own business is prioritizing. And one thing I learned a million things working with Tony Robbins, but chunking things out. So making a really big project or a really big idea smaller by breaking it up into compartments was one way that I was able to tackle big projects and get them done. So with the key business drivers that you're talking about, basically I started to chunk out my business. So in my first year, I had probably 100 different folders on my desktop, and I was working on a million different projects, because at the time, I don't do this anymore, but at the time I was taking clients, and so I had a bunch of different clients, plus I was trying to do my own online programs, and it was just way too much. So you can relate, right?
Completely.
So I thought, okay, this isn't working for me, and it was making me crazy. And I had left a really big, wonderful job to find more freedom in my life, and I wasn't feeling that freedom at all. So I thought, something's got to change here. And I came across to give him credit, Brendan Bouchard, who is just a great man, I came across some kind of blog post where he was talking about how he structures his day. So I took some ideas from there and then kind of modeled it and made it my own. And I created first the key business drivers, where I decided what are the key areas of my business that matter most to the bottom line. So if you really think about it, during the day, there's probably only one or two things you've done today that really directly reflect the bottom line, if you're lucky, one or two. We tend to spend a lot of our days catching up on email, networking on social media sites, calling people back, and letting other factors outside of our own control determine how we're going to spend our day. And that just will not make you money. So what I decided to do is decide, okay, what are those key factors in my business, those key success drivers that are going to make me money and give me more freedom? And it turned out it was things like online programs and having systems in place so that things are streamlined. And affiliate partnerships were a big thing, speaking engagements. So I had probably, 5 or 6 different key drivers. And everything else either fit into those compartments or I didn't do them anymore. So every time something new came on my plate, a new opportunity, someone called me with what I thought was a great idea or whatever, I had to check my key drivers and say, does it fit into one of these folders? And if it doesn't, and you can't cheat and have a miscellaneous folder, and if it doesn't fit into those folders, it's probably not right for your business because you're going to get off track. So I still have those. I still use them today. And basically, I set them up on Dropbox, but I have the first level of Dropbox is only the key drivers. And then inside of those are multiple folders, of course. But if it doesn't fit into those key drivers, it's probably not right for my business. But if something keeps coming up over and over and over that's something similar, then I think maybe I need a new key driver. So that's a way to be flexible as well. Okay. So that's one area that really skyrocketed my business when I got clear about that. And then the handout you're talking about that you use and I use daily, it's so good. But basically it allows you to first prioritize what you're going to get done during that day, but also decide on who you need to follow up with, who needs to follow up with you, and just really keep it to a minimum so that you don't have a huge to-do list that you're trying to constantly check off every day and you're not getting to it all. So it really makes you think, okay, what's important today? What's going to lead to profits? What should not be doing is a question you should always ask yourself. And then, of course, who do you need to follow up with to keep things moving forward? So it's really helped my business. I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of my key success factors.
I love it. I really love it. And I find it so useful. It's absolutely fantastic. So in terms of your success now, Amy, obviously you're super productive, super organized. That's one thing that I absolutely love about you too. So can you walk me through a typical day for you now? Have you got that level of freedom that you kind of aspire to, and do you manage to kind of live the life that you dreamed of, really?
I do. I definitely have the life I've dreamed of, but I have to work for it sometimes. There's days that I think, wait a second, this is not the freedom I was looking for. And so I kind of have to reevaluate. All the time I'm kind of readjusting just to make sure I'm staying the course and living the life that I really want. When I get to take the day off, my husband's a firefighter, so he works 24 on, 24 off. So if he is off for the full day, I want to be able to spend some time with him if I want. So I have to be really diligent. And I need to be diligent in the things I say yes to. And that's something I've learned over the years that I was terrible at that first, even that second year in the business. So now I have a great virtual assistant, Rebecca, who reminds me, are we saying yes to this because it really is part of our key drivers, or should we be saying no to this? And so it's nice to have someone on my team to remind me. But I say no more than I say yes. And that's something fairly new in my business, but it definitely allows me to have the freedom I'm looking for. And I also close loops. And this is something I learned from a great friend of mine, where if most of us are really creative and have tons of ideas. And so when all these ideas are coming at us, we want to start this or look into this or, kind of dabble here, and we have tons of open loops. And that's something I just don't allow in my business. So for example, right now, I have been working on something called the Profit Lab. We're closing it up soon. The launch is almost over, and we're going to start actually doing the training. So I am not doing anything else until the launch is over. And then once I get into the training and everything's going smoothly, I can move on to my next big project, which I know what it is. I'm dying to dive in and get to it. but I am not allowed to even touch it till I close this loop. That way, I know my projects are done right, and I've really given them the focus they need, and this has helped me make so much more money than I did in the past. Closing loops, focusing on one project at a time has dramatically changed my business.
Those are fantastic tips, Amy, as well, because I must say I've got all these millions of ideas swirling around in my head, and it's really, really hard to kind of focus. But I love that closed loop idea, and just get one thing finished at a time, and then focus on the next one. I think that's so important. Talking about launches, I actually wanted to have a chat with you about that too, because obviously I've been through several of your programs now, which have been all absolutely amazing. But apart from the absolute amazing value that you provide to your students and the content that you provide, which is just out of this world, what I love and what I keep coming back to with you, Amy, is how meticulously planned out, streamlined, and strategically implemented your launches are, right from pre-launch to delivery. I mean, I've done countless training programs, and yours is the one that I just keep coming back to because it is so well thought out and well planned. So can you walk us through, I mean, I know you don't have a huge team either. Can you walk us through kind of the systems that you use possibly in terms of launching, and then kind of talk to us about the resources that you also kind of bring on board during a launch?
Yes, definitely. Launching is one of my favorite topics because I think no matter what size your business is, you can definitely launch new programs, products, services, whatever that means for your business. Mm-hmm. So one thing I've done over the years is I have figured out how best to carry out a launch. And really it comes down to, just like you said, planning. So I use Google Docs a lot, and I have a planning document that basically, again, breaks things up into chunks. You've got to think in terms of chunks in order to get things done. So I have my sales webinar, and that's a whole project plan. So basically, literally, it's a Word doc with what needs to get done, when it needs to get done by, and any details, like who's going to help me do it if I need to hire out, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I break it up. I've got my sales webinar, because I do all my launches through webinars. And then I've got my email marketing segment, and then I've got the membership segment where once I fill up the event, how am I going to deliver it? What kind of content? I have to record all the training. So there's usually 3 or 4 different chunks throughout an entire launch. And I basically just work through that. I try to plan as much in advance so that nothing's last minute. But with every launch, there's always going to be some fine-tuning while you're in it. But that's really all I do. I find out the key areas of my launch and then literally write everything I need to do and when I need to get done. So I pull out a calendar ahead of time. So this has really changed things. I mean, this has meant the difference between a $20,000 launch versus an $80,000 launch. Just the better I get at planning, the more money I can make. And quite honestly, I know money matters, but I'm able to impact more lives, which is really exciting to me as well. So and I think it's something that we probably don't talk about as much, but really important. So with that, once I get everything planned out, then I've got to figure out who do I need on my team. And for me specifically, I'm a very, very small team. And I have a virtual assistant, Rebecca, who she just knows my business inside and out, which is really nice. I've been with her almost 2 years now. And then I also have a project manager. And this is someone brand new to my team just in the last few months. So all the launches before that was just me, and you can definitely do that. But as your business grows, I think you got to invest back in the business and find some help so you can still experience that lifestyle you've been after. So I do have a project manager where I can bounce ideas off of, and she kind of gets into certain areas of the launch and helps me out. Specifically, she'll manage the order side of it. So when orders come through, if we have any problems, she knows the ins and outs to fix those kind of things. And she does so much more. And then I also have a contractor and a programmer that are, not a contractor, a programmer and a designer that are contractors. And so they basically just bill me per project or hourly, depending on what we're working on. But here's how I make sure that they're available. I, one, contact them in advance, let them know what's coming down the pipeline. I give them enough time to get things done, and always building cushion if you can. And then I just make sure that these are people I give work to every single month. So they're really dedicated to me, even though they're not full-time with me. So if you keep going back to the same person, if you really like them, give that loyalty to that designer, that programmer, and they'll feel loyal to you as well. So that's helped me over the years as well, just going back to the same people.
Fantastic. It's all around building relationships without, coming back to that, which I've got heaps to talk to you about on that one. But just going back, Amy, in terms of time spent, so how much, and I know you run your business, a lot of it is via launches and things. So how much time do you kind of leave yourself for a launch specifically?
So great question. So let's say this last launch I did probably lasted, I'm trying to think, and so the actual day that we started the webinars till when we're going to close the cart next week, I think. So with that, during those 3 weeks, that's pretty much all I do. I check stats, I write emails. Sometimes I have this stuff done in advance if it's a launch I've done before. This one has been fairly new to me. I've mixed it up. So I've been writing emails throughout the entire launch. When I see something that needs to get done, I can tweak it and tweak my messaging and whatnot. So this one's been a little bit more fluid like that. But during those 3 weeks, that's really what I do. My team knows that the emails that come through are a priority. We get on the phone once a week and talk about what's working, what's not working. So that is definitely devoted to the launch. But leading up to it, probably that month leading up to it, it's not full time, but every day I'm spending an hour or so just getting ready for it. So building the sales page, getting the program done is just a whole nother piece. That's huge. But I'll probably do that. That takes me a few months, and I do that way in advance. And with this Profit Lab, I get to use a lot of the same content, so I'm not always starting from scratch. That's another thing, a quick tip that I didn't do in the beginning, and I wish I did. If you can create a program, or if you have a product or a service, and you can repeat the launch process every quarter or every other quarter, that is going to save you so much time. So whenever you create anything, think, how can I repeat this? Because if something works in your business and you can just continue to do it over and over again till it doesn't work, that's, to me, how you build momentum in your business. So with this launch, I've been really thinking everything I do, I'm going to repeat this in quarter 3, so I need to make it evergreen and streamline it and do it right the first time. So those are some things I keep reminding myself in my head. But a good month before we launch, I'm definitely working on the launch daily.
Okay, that's fantastic. And that's so true because, you're so time poor as it is. That's kind of the whole reason around the Empowered Women Entrepreneur Association is helping women get more organized in their businesses because they are so time poor. So those are great tips to think of in advance when you are planning a launch, to take into consideration that you are creating kind of that evergreen content that you can repurpose and reuse all the time. So that's great. Yeah. Now, another thing that I've learned from you, and it's kind of been honed in from day one when we met, is that, you've always taught that the money is in the list, that if you don't have a list, you don't really have a business. And I preach that to all my clients now, and, I really try and kind of drum home that that's kind of what you need to be doing if you are going to be serious about running an online business. So in terms of systems around building your list, Amy, what kind of things do you use? And I know webinars is a big thing for you, but talk us through a little bit about what systems you use specifically about in terms of growing your lists.
Great question. So definitely I believe that the money's in the list for sure. And one thing I will say, though, a year or so ago, I would say that you needed a really big list in order to see bigger profits. But I recently was talking to an online entrepreneur that most of us, I'll keep his name private, just keep his information private, but he's a big shot, and most of us would know who he was. And he was telling me the size of his list, and I was blown away. It was under 10,000, but the guy makes a lot of money and has this huge, loyal fan base. So when you hear the money's in the list, that is very true, but really you got to put the word quality in there. And I forget sometimes that the money's in a quality list, whether it's a huge list or a small list. He has a smaller list than me, and I'm pretty sure he makes a lot more money than me. I'm guessing. He's a big shot. So with that, it's really about quality. So some of the things I do to create a really quality email list, and I've been fine-tuning this over the last year because I felt that in the beginning, I was creating this great list, but maybe they weren't people that were completely passionate about what I was doing in my business. So to attract those people that are genuinely interested in what you're selling, first of all, you've got to create some kind of opt-in, and it's got to be forefront on your website. So whether that be an ebook or a video series or a newsletter giveaway, whatever that might be, you've got to create this opt-in, and it needs to be on your website, and also use it on Facebook. Tweet about it on Twitter, make a video about it. You've got to tell people you've got this opt-in. But one of the tips, I was recently at a baseball game for my son, and I was sitting next to a woman that was asking me a bunch of online marketing advice. And I said, well, first you got to have this opt-in. So the first thing she said was, okay, well, should it be an ebook, or I'm not really good on video, and da-da-da. And I said, wait, before we even get to the media, we got to figure out, or the platform, we've got to figure out what it is that you have that's so valuable to give away. So first, think of a challenge of your audience, and then think of the solution, and make sure that you're excited about that solution. It's usually something you talk about over and over and over again. That's your opt-in. What's something you love to talk to people about, you love to give advice, and you get asked about it all the time. That's your free giveaway, because that's what's going to draw in your ideal audience. Start there, and then figure out how you want to put it into a package, whether it be a video, ebook, webinar, whatever that might be. For me, I do webinars, but it just depends on what feels comfortable to you and how you want to deliver it. So that's one way. I also use Facebook ads a lot. A lot of people shy away from Facebook ads, but it's the #1 way to build your email list quickly when you're using social media. Beyond any social media site, Facebook and Facebook ads are the way to do it. And that just means creating an opt-in and driving traffic to it through Facebook ads. It doesn't have to break the bank, but it's really valuable. So if you've ever shied away from Facebook ads, or you think I've used them in the past and haven't gotten great success, definitely look into them again, because there's a lot of potential.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've tried them for sure. I'll back you up on that one.
You're good, yeah. I see that.
Yeah. So talking about systems then, Amy, because I'm all around systemization and making things as easy as possible for kind of business owners. What would you say is the most important system in your business at the moment, the one that you absolutely can't do without, if you had to pick one?
Let me think. Most important system. Oh, if I had to pick one, I would think right now it's Rike. And Rike is a management system for my team. Now that I'm growing my team a little bit, something I didn't do in the beginning was to make sure everyone knew what they were working on. We were communicating about it regularly. We had due dates to everything. Everything was kind of in our head or in email. So it doesn't matter if it's Rike is what I use, but it doesn't matter what you use, but getting some kind of base camp or some kind of project management system, exactly. I think they're extremely valuable, no matter which one you use. There's so many different ones, free ones, paid ones. But even if you are a one-woman show, getting a system where you're putting in due dates and projects and details and links and all that good stuff, streamlining your projects is a really smart idea. It's something I wish I did a long time ago. So these days, that's kind of one thing I can't live without, because when I go to bed at night, I think, my team knows what they're working on, they know their deadlines, and they can communicate with me through this system, so it just makes me feel a little bit more at ease. So that's my recent big, find that I've been loving.
That's fantastic. I love those, because as you can say, in terms of projects, that's what I kind of use too. It's a different one. I use Teamwork PM for my projects as well. That's a really fantastic one too, but it's so fantastic because, as you say, if you're plotting out a project, you can actually I use a Gantt chart that you can then put kind of your task in, and then something that's determined by that, you can only kind of put that on, plug it onto the back of it, so it's kind of, once that part of the project's done, then you can move on to the next one, and I love that as well. So it's all the collaboration and the planning is fantastic. So
so that's my favorite tool. And I also, this is kind of a silly one, but Dropbox has become a way that I just organize everything. And for some reason, I had a bad experience with Dropbox a year or so ago. I don't know what happened, but it was confusing to me, and I didn't want to use it. And then someone's like, "You're crazy. You've got to use Dropbox." So I got back into it, and I thought, how did I live without this? Because you can access the boxes anywhere, or your files and folders anywhere. It's easy to share things. So that's another way that I just keep things totally organized, is through Dropbox.
Oh, I love Dropbox. You won't believe my my laptop died on me last week, and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't have a backup, but luckily all my documents were saved in Dropbox.
See, that's huge. It's so important. So I love it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So just moving a little bit away from systems now, Amy, I want to talk to you about networking and relationship building, how you go about networking and relationship building both online and then taking it offline. And I know obviously social media has had a huge impact on the ability to be able to network online, but could you just talk to us a little bit about how you actually use social media for one, and then how you actually do your networking online and then take it offline?
Yes, so definitely networking is so crucial to any woman that is building her business, because we live online these days. So that online networking is crucial to be able to expand your business in general. So one thing that I really focus on is quality versus quantity. Whereas I know I can't have a relationship with everybody online, or everybody even that kind of touches my platforms as a follower or fan. So what I do is I make sure that when I am communicating with somebody online, that it's not just a quick, hey, thanks, and move on kind of thing. Knowing what they're about, asking them questions, genuinely caring about those people. You can't do it for everybody, unfortunately. There's only so many hours in a day. But definitely go out of your way to expand on those relationships beyond just a quick hello, how are you doing, thank you for the share, whatever that might be. So that has added, a level of richness to my networking that I'm really, really proud about, because I feel like I have strong relationships with people I have never met. I mean, my VA, Rebecca, who I've known for 2 years online, I just met her 2 weeks ago at an event. But I felt like I've known her for years, and we don't even talk on the phone. It's all online. So it's pretty powerful what you can do when you genuinely care what the other person's saying on the other end of that tweet or Facebook post or whatever it might be. But the funny thing is, you mentioned my relationship, how I got the book deal with Wiley Publishers. So to expand on that a little bit, I went to a live event, and I think live events, networking at live events, is also crucial to growing a business. Even if you can just go to one a year and it's more local than it is you're getting on a plane. Maybe you don't have the time or the money at this point in your business. Get out of your office and start meeting people. What I did is I went to a live event with a really small group of women, and I sat next to this woman, Andrea Ball. I never had met her. We talked about Facebook marketing because she was in the same arena as I was. And we just kind of had a chat and had some wine and just enjoyed our time together. After that event, we stayed in touch through Facebook and Twitter, where those relationships can solidify if you actually spend the time getting to know the person. So when it came time that someone asked her, do you know someone that could co-author this book with you, Andrea? She thought of me. And we had never really spent a lot of time together, but I was top of mind with her because we had this relationship online. So really thinking about quality versus quantity in your relationships could make a huge difference.
So true. That's so true. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Amy, changing topic again now. I know that you work from home in sunny San Diego, and I actually work from home too, and I absolutely love the flexibility and freedom that it provides me. I can be at home with the kids when they come home from school and that kind of thing. But it can be quite a distraction as well, working from home. How do you balance kind of your family and business, working with having a home office?
So I struggle with it for sure, and it's something that I have to be really cognizant of. So a few tips that I've kind of adapted over the years to make sure that I can balance the two. The hardest thing about working from home is that your office is the kitchen, the family room, the bedroom, the office. I mean, this office that I'm in here is not the only place I do business. Sometimes I just want to stay downstairs on the couch because it's more comfortable. So because my office is everywhere in this house, I could easily be on the computer any minute of the day and just be pounding away, getting lost in something. As like you, I love what I do. So if I didn't have a family, I could do this 24 hours a day. Yeah. But I also more so love my family. So when my husband Hobie comes home, I really make an effort to close down the computer, have dinner with the family, and really say the computer is off limits until my little boy goes to sleep, and then I can get back on and do whatever I want. Yeah. Or if there's quality time with my husband, I just got to shut everything down because he's very cognizant of when I'm peeking over in my phone or I'm checking email real fast. They know, our family knows what we're doing. We're not hiding anything. So having serious boundaries, and it's not easy. I still struggle with it, where if I know someone's waiting for me to get an email back to them, but we're having dinner with the family, I just got to be fully present. So making it a habit. Also, once in a while, getting out of my house, so going to Starbucks to work for a while, or taking a walk and just kind of shutting things down to clear my head. Those are little habits I've been getting into recently, just so I'm not so stuffed in, this little office all day long. You could go crazy. So that's another thing. I make sure I get out of the house, whether it to be workout, walk my dog, or whatever, and then sometimes change up my environment and work at, let's say, a coffee house, just to change things up. That helps a lot too, so I'm not always just doing the same thing every single day.
That's great. That's great. Great tips. It is easy to do when you're working on something that you love. It is really, really hard to kind of put it away and be present with your family. But that's the whole reason that the reason that I started it was to be present with my family. So
yes.
it's trying to get that balance, isn't it? It's very difficult, but.
So true.
So to wrap up, Amy, I ask this of all my guests, but I just wanted to ask you, what's the one thing that women entrepreneurs need to do each and every day to be able to manage their overwhelm when it comes to moving their business forward? What's the one thing that you would recommend doing? Because I know that they do feel really, you do feel overwhelmed when there's so much to do and you're trying to get everything done and you're juggling home and family and all that kind of thing. What would you recommend is the one thing that they need to do every day and be consistent about it?
So this thing is not the easiest thing to do, but once you get into a habit, it could definitely change your day completely. And that it's kind of twofold. One, plan the night before. So before you shut down that computer, actually, however you do it, I like old school. I like to write things down. Write down how you're going to spend your next day. And so really dedicate yourself so that, let's say you're going to spend 2 hours doing this, 5 hours doing that, whatever it might be. Plan your day the night before. And that I learned that from the CEO of Tony Robbins' company. She was always really organized, and I asked her, how do you get so much done in the day? And she says, I don't shut down my computer the night before until I plan the next day. So I think that's huge, and I do it all the time.
Yep.
Another thing is, do not put 10 tasks on your to-do list for that night before for the next day, because you will never get to them. This is the hard part. Put 1, 2, maybe 3. Really like the bigger chunk projects, the projects that will make you money eventually. So 1 or 2 is really the ideal so that you just get them done. And then if you have more hours in the day, great. Either work a little bit more or do something fun. But this is really counterintuitive where you think that's not going to make you more money doing less. I was amazed how much more money I made when I started doing less but more quality work. So not putting a huge to-do list every day is going to change things for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been going back to right from the beginning when you were saying be realistic with your, be realistic, be realistic about what you can achieve in a day. That's really, really important. Yeah. Amy, thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. Thanks a million.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'd love for, where can people find you if we, I love your website. Your blogs are absolutely fantastic. And I know you've got a podcast as well. Where could we find you online?
So I'm at amyporterfield.com, and there you can find my webinars. My brand new podcast is there, so you can check it out. So I'd love to see you at amyporterfield.com.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, Amy.
Take care.